We have many wonderful memories of our time with Kerry. Sadly, they are now tainted by thoughts of her suffering in the final moments of her life at the hands of a monster, as he repeatedly rained the most severe of blows to her head, resulting in every bone in her face being broken like a jigsaw, with her face pushed inwards by a centimetre, her jaw hanging loose, her neck bone crushed as he prevented her escape by dragging her back from the safety of the front door in a stranglehold, suffocating her as her stomach and lungs filled with her blood flowing from many of the 19 separate head injuries.
Joe Story, 27. Murdered, Kerry McCauley, 32 at her Norwich flat on January 2017 and then took a blood-smeared selfie before leaving her to die. On the night of her death, the pair went bowling then headed out for drinks at nearby pubs in Norwich. They were spotted arguing before they returned to Kerry's flat, where bloodied footprints and splatters were later found. Kerry was found bludgeoned to death in her flat after falling victim to Story's temper for the final time. Her body was discovered at her flat when her ex-partner, the father of her 2 boys, became concerned, as he could not contact her. He had contacted her mother Leslie. They had used her spare key to let themselves in to find Kerry lying lifeless on the floor, alongside a bloodied mattress. She was found with a tie wrapped around her neck following the brutal attack. Story killed Kelly by numerous punches to the head, effectively smashing every bone in her face. Following Kerry's tragic death, neighbors described hearing her screaming for help at the flat that she shared with her 2 young boys. Police tracked Story to his friend's flat where they arrested him on suspicion of murder after finding him wearing a shirt which was soaked with blood. Kerry had previously told police that she feared Story would kill her during an attack in July 2016. She later told a friend, "I know he is going to kill me." Story was prosecuted for that attack, in which Kerry escaped through a window, but prosecutors dropped the case. Prosecutor Simon Spence told the jury how Story had previously assaulted Kerry on at least 2 other occasions before her death. He once headbutted her during a night out and broke her jaw, on other occasion, leaving her hospitalized. Mr. Spence described this horrific death of Kerry McCauley as a sight that will no doubt haunt them for the rest of their lives. The pathologist described Kerry's skull as almost a mosaic of small fractured pieces of bone. The court heard literally thousands of text messages that were found on Story's phone which showed a relationship in which Kerry was trying to keep away from. In one sent by Kerry to Story, she wrote, "I deserve far better than you, a dirty, lying cheat of a woman beater. You're a coward. You've broken my face. I could have another you in a heartbeat, one that doesn't break my bones. There is only so many beatings a girl can take before they walk away." She also told Story she had put up with so much and said, "I feel broken inside." During the exchanges, Story insisted he was so sorry for what he had done and that he just flipped and lost it. He added, "I just flipped and lost it. I will never kill you, will I?" Jurors took just an hour to find Story unanimously guilty of murdering her on January 7, 2017. Story was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 24 years for murdering Kerry in the horrific attack. In November 2018, a report found the thug was left free to batter Kerry to death despite being prosecuted for attacking her a year before and having 3 restraining orders against him from other ex-girlfriends. A risk assessment by probation services in 2008, when Story was 18, found he had the potential to inflict fatal harm upon his partner and unborn child. The mother of 2 was murdered by Story 6 months after she endured hours of being attacked and locked away. In this first attack, in July 2016, she escaped through a window wearing only her underwear. She told police she feared Story would kill her during the attack. She later told a friend, "I know he is going to kill me. He had been due to stand trial for the assault, but the case was dropped when Kerry would not give evidence. The report said an adjournment would have allowed police to find out the reasons why she changed her mind. In sentencing, the judge said it was one of the worst cases of domestic violence that have come before the courts. A domestic homicide review into the death of Kerry McCauley lifts the lid on a series of failings by organizations meant to protect her. The risks posed by a sadistic killer were not fully recognized before he battered his ex-girlfriend to death. The probation service manager who took on Story's case was overwhelmed with work, failed to read his file and was not aware of the full background of domestic abuse. The probation service admitted it did not have enough staff to do its job properly in this case. Kerry's mother Leslie said, "I'm absolutely devastated. I feel that opportunities were missed. One of my main things is where was the communication between the authorities? That's quite a huge thing, the communication between probation, the police and Crown Prosecution Service, where was it to safeguard my daughter? I was reading the report but started to weep. I cried all the way through what I was reading, it's soul-destroying. You put it all together and they've failed. There's just so much, so many failings, so many things that could have been done differently. It means my daughter could have been alive. I feel totally let down and totally disgusted." Kerry's brother Rory said, "The police, social services, probation, we believe these authorities are there to help us and will be there for us when we need them the most. But it could not be any more apparent than in my sister's case that she was failed." Hannah Clark, 31, and children Aliyah, 6, Lyanna, 4, and Trey, 3, were killed by the hands of Rowan Baxter in Brisbane, Australia on February 19, 2020. Hannah's ex-husband Rowan Baxter had jumped into her car carrying a brand new jerry can full of petrol and a knife. Drive, Baxter said upon jumping into the front passenger seat of Hannah's car as she prepared to take her kids to school. The terrified mum pleaded with Baxter to leave them alone. While it's hard to imagine the terror Hannah would have endured in those seconds, her fight to save her children never ended. With Baxter screaming in her ear, Hannah spotted a man with a hose in the distance. Michael Zemek was washing his car that morning when he heard a car pull up outside his home. Without a moment's hesitation, Baxter began dousing his family in petrol. Hannah Clark shouted from the car words Mr. Zemek will never forget. "Call the police, call the police. He's trying to kill me. He's put petrol on me." Mr. Zemek couldn't see or hear the children, but could see Baxter holding Hannah in a bear hug with both arms around her. He was sitting on his side and she was screaming, he said. Mr. Zemek described the resigned look on Baxter's face as he approached the passenger side window to investigate. With that, the fate of Hannah and her family was sealed and Baxter sparked his lighter. "It was just a bang and a blackness sort of hit my face. I sort of turned my head around briefly. When I came to look up, the whole of the inside front was ablaze," Mr. Zemek told the inquest. Stephanie Ring, an off-duty paramedic, happened to be in the area when she witnessed the explosion. Ms. Clark was yelling and crying, "My babies are in the car, why didn't I just stay in the car with them?" She was still head to toe in flames, Ms. Ring said. Hannah continued to plead for someone to save her children as Mr. Zemek desperately worked to douse the flames with his garden hose. "I didn't save my kids, I couldn't save my kids," Hannah Clark told him. Such was the intensity of the blaze, Mr. Zemek could not even tell the children were inside the car. Samantha Covey was driving her children to swimming lessons when she saw Hannah's car engulfed in flames. She found Hannah lying on the grass near her car saying, "My kids, someone get my kids." Only 3% of Ms. Clark's skin was not affected by burns, with most being full thickness, indicating she would not survive from the injuries. Multiple witnesses would attest to her bravery, knowing full well her time was at an end. "I can't believe he's done this. I've got a DVO, I can't believe he's done this. Where are my babies, where are my kids? How could he do this? That's my babies in there," she told Ms. Covey. As the shocked Good Samaritan moved to extinguish the flames in the burning SUV, an already badly burnt Baxter dived back into the vehicle to retrieve his knife. Neighbor Kerry Fernandez, who raced towards the flames with a fire extinguisher, said Baxter was determined to ensure his children died. "I felt like he was almost guarding the car," she said. "He was not wanting me to put the fire out, and it felt like if I went to the right side, he'd follow me there. If I went to the left side, he'd follow me there." Ms. Fernandez was oblivious Baxter was holding the knife. When a fellow neighbor had spotted the weapon, the pair bolted across the street to warn others. By then, Baxter had himself sustained burns to 80% of his body. A neighbor pleaded with him to drop the knife. "I couldn't see a lot of him because he was burned from head to toe," she said. "I told him to drop the knife, that it's not worth anything, drop the knife." With that, Baxter plunged the knife directly into his heart and died on the side of the road. One of Queensland's most qualified emergency medical respondents and medical director for the Queensland Ambulance Service, could tell Hannah had essentially non-survivable injuries the moment he laid eyes upon her. The only parts not scorched were the bottoms of her feet. Hannah was not screaming in pain while he treated her, adding that in some cases those suffering severe burns can be cognitively intact. The medical respondents reassured her as much as they could, and wanted to basically say they would take any pain away and that they hoped she would wake up in hospital and be in a better place. "That's always a very difficult conversation to have with anyone," he said. He described the mother of 3 as incredibly courageous and added, after briefly speaking to her, he believed her pain was not her primary issue amidst the horror of what just happened. It was her children. Senior Constable, another first responder, told the inquest Hannah was able to give details of names and dates of births in the moments before she was sedated with painkillers. "It was just amazing the things she was able to tell me and how much she was able to help us." Audio from Senior Constable Skane's bodycam was heard at the inquest. "My ex-husband, he got in the..." "What's your ex-husband's name?" he asked. "Rowan Baxter," she said. "There's a protection order against him. We got in the car to go to school, and he jumped in the front seat with me, and had a jerry can." Hannah told the officer she saw a man washing a car and asked him to call the police. "And then Baxter he poured petrol everywhere and just lit the car. And my 3 kids. Hannah died later in hospital. Deputy State Coroner Jane Bentley said the information given by Ms. Clark that day would have greatly helped prosecute Baxter in the event he lived. Baxter had been described by church pastor Christopher Ensbay as having had an alpha male personality who exhibited controlling and paranoid behaviors. Baxter had confided in him during a moment of vulnerability about the impact the breakdown of his marriage was having on him. He knew something was wrong and had to change, but he didn't have the self-awareness to know what to do, Mr. Ensbay said. He had met the couple at their gym, which was close to his church. Mr. Ensbay recalled Baxter training people until they would vomit. Hannah told the pastor that Baxter believed he was entitled to sex every day and controlled her daily schedule. "I had never perceived the paranoia around the relationship, but at this point it felt like he was getting more and more paranoid about who she spent time with and her communications," Mr. Ensbay said. Lewis Bartlett, who employed Hannah at his sports shoe store, told the inquest she confided in him about intending to leave her husband in late 2019, and later said they had what was classed as a domestic violence relationship. Baxter had not hit her, but had done other things that she did not elaborate on. Mr. Bartlett said Ms. Clark told him that she could not do anything without Baxter's permission, and her husband wouldn't let her wear shorts to work. In the weeks before her death, Hannah asked Mr. Bartlett how to write a will. She said if anything ever happened to her, she wanted to make sure her children were well looked after and went to the right people, Mr. Bartlett said. When he replied that nothing would happen to her, Hannah said, "No, he's going to try and kill me." Hannah said she had told the police her concerns and he thought things would be put in place to protect her. Mr. Bartlett said Hannah had fears about what Baxter would do to her, but didn't think he would harm the children. Just a week before Baxter would kill his family, Hannah's best friend Nicole Brooks warned police she was concerned he was likely to harm them. "I said, I'm sure he's going to take them out. But officers said they couldn't do anything until Baxter does something. I said, what if you don't get a second chance?" Ms. Brooks told the inquest of Hannah saying she was choked by Baxter when he was full of adrenaline after a jiu-jitsu class and telling her, "You have no idea what I'm capable of." Hannah's mother Suzanne Clark told the inquest her eldest granddaughter, Aliyah, fought back against her father despite living in fear of him. She shared how the 6-year-old once told her father not come back to the house after seeing him yell at her mother. Hannah testified that while Lyanna and Trey would speak to Baxter over video and FaceTime calls, Aliyah would sometimes refuse. On one occasion the 6-year-old was FaceTiming with Baxter and told him she needed to wash her hair and walked away, promptly ending the call. After the couple separated, Baxter continued to see his children, but on Boxing Day in 2019 he fled with Lyanna, disappearing for more than 2 days. Lyanna was recovered by police on December 29 after the pair fled to New South Wales. Lyanna was returned to her mother and Baxter was served a protection order. Hannah told her mother and friends she feared for her life in the weeks before she would die. "When he kills me, he'll be in jail, and what happens to the children?" she asked her mum during a conversation about making a will the week before her death. The inquest has been told Baxter frequently threatened to take his own life during their marriage, wanted sex every day, he called his wife a fat pig and wouldn't let her wear shorts or pink clothing. Asked about Baxter's actions that killed her daughter and grandchildren, Mrs. Clark said she didn't think he knew how to love. "His form of love is as a possession," she said. Mrs. Clark told the inquest Hannah was a beautiful soul, bright, bubbly and full of empathy. She wanted people to know her daughter was strong, loved her children and would have fought anyone to save them. Mrs. Clark said Aliyah was articulate and bright, a strong child who stood up to her father, while Lyanna, who they called Little Middle, was a little dynamo. "Trey was the apple of his mother's eye and a mummy's boy," she said. Mrs. Clark said focusing on Hannah's legacy and giving her a voice helped her get out of bed each day. She and her husband Lloyd have since become outspoken advocates against domestic violence and established the Small Steps for Hannah Foundation in their daughter's honor. Mrs. Clark hoped for more understanding and awareness about family violence, including through advertisements and education campaigns. Ms. Clark's father Lloyd said outside court he hoped the inquest would determine how the system let his daughter and grandchildren down so that they can put new procedures in place, so people won't have to go through this terrible thing.